Hey guys, today's video is going to be a full first round mock for the upcoming NFL draft. Please like the video, subscribe so you don't miss more of my uploads, and comment below which team you support and who you want them to draft. The first team on the clock are the Cincinnati Bengals. With the first overall selection in the draft, I have the Bengals taking Joe Burrow. They have their choice out of any of the quarterbacks that they want, and for the last few months it's been seemingly apparent that they're definitely going to take Burrow. He's coming off the back of maybe the greatest college season in recent memory, and the only possible concern about him is that last season was the only season he started at college, and was it potentially a fluke, and will he be able to replicate the success he had in the pros? With the second overall pick, I have the Redskins taking defensive end Chase Young out of Ohio State. Although defensive end isn't really a position of need for the Redskins, Young is too great of a talent for them to pass up, and they'll be able to get what most people consider the best player in the draft. With the third overall pick, I have the Lions taking Jeff Okudah out of Ohio State. They get a chance to replace the departing Slayer with what many people consider to be the best cornerback prospect in the draft for some years. By not taking a quarterback, they're gambling on Stafford getting healthy again and remaining their franchise quarterback. Don't be surprised if they trade down to 5 or 6 with the Dolphins or Chargers, so they can go up and get the quarterback they want out of Tua and Herbert, as Okudah's likely to still be there at 5 or 6. With the fourth overall pick, I have the Giants selecting Tristan Wirfs out of Iowa. With Chase Young almost certainly off the board by the time the Giants pick at 4, they'll almost certainly take an offensive tackle. They're likely to have their choice of whichever one they want, but I think it's likely to be either Wirfs or Jedrick Wills from Alabama. With the fifth overall pick, I have the Dolphins taking Tua Tagovailoa. Providing he gets a clean bill of health from their medical staff, I expect them to take him over Justin Herbert. This is possibly a steal for the Dolphins if he is healthy, because prior to his injury he was widely slated to go first overall. I have the Chargers taking Justin Herbert out of Oregon with the 6th overall pick, likely to see a third quarterback taken in the first 6 picks, and I suspect they'll probably be happier with Herbert as their replacement for Rivers, as although he's possibly got less upside than Tua, he is a much less risky pick as well, because he doesn't have that injury history. With the 7th pick, I have the Carolina Panthers taking Isaiah Simmons out of Clemson. He seems like the obvious pick for the Panthers at this point here, and a Luke Kuechly successor has basically fallen into their lap. With the 8th overall pick, I have the Arizona Cardinals taking offensive tackle Jedrick Wills out of Alabama. The Cardinals need to keep Kyler Murray upright, and they might have what many people view as the best tackle in the class fall to them at number 8. With the 9th overall pick, I have the Jacksonville Jaguars taking Derek Brown out of Auburn. The Jags suffered significant departures on their D-line since they made it to the AFC Championship back at the end of the 2017 season, and Brown would add some serious talent to that depleted defensive line. With the 10th overall pick, I have the Cleveland Browns taking offensive tackle Andrew Thomas out of Georgia. They're likely to address their offensive line after their obvious struggles last season, and they'll be hoping to find a tackle to line up opposite free agent signing Jack Conklin. Some people view Thomas as the tackle with the most upside in the draft, so I think the Browns will be very happy to take him at 10 here. With the 11th overall pick, I have the Jets taking offensive tackle Mekhi Becton out of Louisville. He's considered as the last of the top tackles available in the draft, so the Jets would really be addressing a need here by taking him. On the other hand, I can also see them taking a wide receiver, particularly as they'll have their choice out of all of them in all likelihood when they pick at number 11. With the 12th overall pick, I have the Raiders selecting Henry Ruggs III out of Alabama. He's not considered by many to be the top wide receiver in the draft, but the Raiders have always drafted unconventionally, and I suspect that they'll really like his fast track-like speed. Possible that they gamble that Ruggs might still be available at 19 when they have their next selection, so they might look at a cornerback at this pick, such as CJ Henderson out of Florida. With the 13th overall selection, I think the 49ers are almost guaranteed to take a wide receiver. I think that was the key to their trade with the Colts. They wanted one of the four receivers that everyone expects to go in the top half of the first round. I think they'll be very happy to take Lamb at 13. In my opinion, he's the most polished and refined receiver in the class and will probably be their first choice. With the 14th overall pick, I have the Buccaneers selecting cornerback CJ Henderson out of Florida. The Buccaneers make this pick because they need to bolster up their secondary so their defense gives Brady a chance of winning next year. On the other hand, don't be surprised if they draft an offensive tackle to protect Brady. With the 15th overall pick, I have the Denver Broncos taking wide receiver Jerry Jeudy out of Alabama. They're likely to target a wide receiver to line up opposite Courtland Sutton because beyond him, they don't really have much talent at the wide receiver position. I think they'll be very pleased if Jeudy falls to them at 50. With the 16th overall pick, I have the Atlanta Falcons taking Javon Kinlaw, a defensive tackle out of South Carolina. He provides a nice complement to Grady Jarrett, and they're likely to take him because he's probably the most talented player left on the board, and they don't have any particularly pressing areas of need. With the 17th pick in the draft, I have the Cowboys taking safety Xavier McKinney out of Alabama. He bolsters a secondary that's lost Byron Jones in free agency, and he's sufficiently versatile to be able to line up against wide receivers, tight ends, and running backs. With the 18th pick, I have the Dolphins selecting offensive tackle Josh Jones out of Houston. It's a massive need for the Dolphins, having traded Tunzel before last season, and I'll be hoping to replace him. Dolphins could also take Austin Jackson if they don't like Jones. With the 19th overall pick, I have the Raiders selecting linebacker Kenneth Murray out of Oklahoma. Having addressed wide receiver early in the draft, I expect that they'll then take the best player on the board, which is Murray, and him and Corey Littleton will form a great inside linebacker pairing. With the 20th pick in the draft, I have the Jaguars taking cornerback AJ Terrell out of Clemson. Cornerback is a clear position of need for the Jaguars, having lost both Jalen Ramsey and AJ Boye within the last year, and Terrell should fit that need. With the 21st overall pick in the draft, I have the Eagles selecting wide receiver Justin Jefferson out of LSU. The Eagles are almost certain to take a wide receiver in the first round, and Jefferson is at this point the best one left on the board. Although don't be surprised if the Eagles trade up above some of the other teams who've taken wide receivers to land Lamb or Jeudy. With the 22nd overall pick, I have the Minnesota Vikings selecting cornerback Christian Fulton out of LSU. The Vikings need to address cornerback after releasing Xavier Rhodes and letting Trey Waynes walk in free agency, so this pick makes sense. If there are any of the receivers that have already gone before in my mock still available, don't be surprised if the Vikings pick up a receiver to replace Stephon Diggs. With the 23rd overall pick, I have the Patriots taking K'Lavon Chaisson. The Patriots need to address edge rusher as they never replaced Trey Flowers after he departed last off-season. Although they'll obviously be evaluating the quarterback position, if Chaisson does fall to them, then they won't be able to pass him up. Having said that, don't be surprised if the Patriots trade down and out of the first round because they don't have any second round picks. With the 24th pick, I have the Saints taking Patrick Queen, linebacker out of LSU. He's probably the most talented player remaining on the board and can be a starter year one for them. Also, linebackers is close to a position of need that the Saints have because they have one of the most well-rounded rosters in the league. With the 25th overall pick, I have the Minnesota Vikings selecting Yetur Gross-Matos out of Penn State. The Vikings have a need at defensive end after losing Everson Griffin, and Yetur Gross-Matos is probably the best remaining edge rusher. On the other hand, don't be stunned if the Vikings trade one of their 2 first-round picks either for a player. They've been vaguely linked with Odell Beckham, maybe Yannick Ngakoue as well, or they might trade it into day 2 picks. With the 26th overall selection in the draft, I have the Miami Dolphins taking running back Jonathan Taylor out of Wisconsin. Running back's a clear position of need for them after trading Kenyon Drake. It got so bad that Ryan Fitzpatrick even led them in rushing yards. At this point, the Dolphins will likely have their pick of backs available because there's a good chance that none will be taken before this. If they choose not to take a running back here, they'll likely take one early in the second round. With the 27th pick of the draft, I have the Seahawks taking offensive tackle Ezra Cleveland out of Boise State. Offensive tackle is a position of need for them after losing George Fant in free agency. I wouldn't be surprised if they took Austin Jackson instead, sort of a toss-up between the two. Alternatively, they might also trade down into the second round if they think one or both of those players might still be available there. With the 28th pick in the draft, I have the Baltimore Ravens taking defensive tackle Ross Blacklock out of TCU. They're likely to address their defensive front seven, and Blacklock seems to be the best player remaining that fits that. With the 29th overall pick, I have the Tennessee Titans taking defensive end AJ Espinoza out of Iowa. Defensive end is a position that needs addressing for the team, but I also wouldn't be surprised if they go with an offensive tackle or cornerback, particularly if a player at one of those positions slips down a bit further than people expected. With the 30th overall selection, I have the Green Bay Packers taking wide receiver Denzel Mims out of Baylor. Wide receiver is a position that needs addressing as they lack talent outside of Devontae Adams. The receiver that they'd actually pick is unclear because outside of the top 4 wide receivers, the rankings are not clear at all. With the 31st selection, I have the San Francisco 49ers taking center Cesar Ruiz out of Michigan. That's presuming they don't trade down to gain more picks for day 2 and day 3. A center seems an obvious selection, and Richburg's the starting center, his injury struggles last year means a center's an obvious choice. With the 32nd pick and final pick of the first round, I have the Kansas City Chiefs taking center/guard Matt Hennessy out of Temple. The Chiefs are likely to address their interior line or their secondary, and Hennessy could start for them day 1, so seems like a good choice. And on top of that, he's versatile, able to play both center and guard. Thank you very much for watching. Let me know in the comments how happy you are with the selection I made for your team. Please subscribe and check out some of my other videos, and I'll see you later.